Hello. Today I want to talk about a person who has committed corruption, money laundering, arms trafficking, human trafficking, financial fraud, political conspiracies, mafia, and crimes that are even hard to imagine. Before watching the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, support us by liking. So let's get started. Corruption, extortion, conspiracies surrounding laws, postal fraud, money laundering, conspiracy of every kind, arms trafficking, drug trafficking, human trafficking, aiding and abetting murder, forming prostitution expansion networks, securities fraud, creating false criminal cases, forging books, work histories, and anything you can imagine. So what are all these? These are the charges against this man, Semion Mogilevich, in June of 1946, in Kiev, central Ukraine, which at the time was part of the Soviet Union. A boy is born into a Jewish family. They name him Semion. There isn't much information about Semion's childhood because post-World War II Ukraine was under Stalin's control, and very little information ever left the country for the world to see. But we do know this. When he finishes high school, he enters Lviv University in Ukraine and continues his studies in economics. In 1968, he earns his bachelor's degree and goes looking for a job so he can live well. But no matter which door he knocks on, he realizes this is a communist system, and there's nothing higher than being a simple employee. And Semion, he really wanted to be rich. He tries everything, but nothing works. It's communism. So he says to himself, if it can't be done the right way, then we'll take the wrong road. And he does. He enters the world of crime. And where? The Soviet Union of the 1970s, where the KGB controls everything and is fiercely opposed to criminal or mafia organizations. If you've seen old documentaries about the Russian mafia, you know that due to the KGB's power, there was effectively no mafia in the USSR. Criminals were either invisible or already in prison. So Semion thinks carefully. How can he avoid getting caught? He doesn't want to drown in crime. He just wants to be rich. So he starts an underground currency exchange. Because in the Soviet Union, currency exchange is illegal. Only the Russian ruble is allowed. No foreign money exists unless the government authorizes it. In his own mind, Semion believes he chose the perfect crime. And it works, very quickly. Under the table, he converts rubles into dollars, dollars into rubles, German marks, British pounds, and other currencies. It doesn't take long before he's exposed and arrested. He's sentenced to 4 years in prison. When he's released, he stays away from crime for a while, waiting for things to cool down. A few years later, as the 1980s begin, Soviet leaders decide to slightly reduce the KGB's power and grant more freedom. More freedom means one thing: the birth of the first Soviet mafia groups. Semion sees high. Finally, a place where he can work. He quickly joins the Soltsevskaya Bratva, and once inside, he climbs the ranks fast, very fast. He becomes the brain of the group. Nothing happens without consulting him, especially when it comes to money laundering, currency exchange, and accounting. During this same decade, the 1980s, many Soviet Jews want to leave the country. With increased freedom, escape becomes possible, and Semion offers them a solution for a good price. We can get you out of the Soviet Union safely. He collects enormous amounts of money and sends them abroad to the United States or Israel. Because Semion himself is Jewish, many of these people trust him. They say, instead of paying you cash, we'll give you power of attorney over our property. Sell it, take your commission, take your fee, and send us the rest. Semion agrees. They hand over valuable properties in the best Soviet cities. Yes, it's communism, but property ownership exists to a point. Semion Mogilevich sells the properties for massive sums and sends nothing to the people who left. This becomes his first major fraud. He earns millions of rubles, all of it flowing into the mafia. And from that moment on, Semion becomes more powerful, climbing higher and higher. All the accounting is in his hands. All the money is in his hands. He's the reason the group became wealthy. So he joins the very top leadership. Other high-ranking members see something clearly. They can't do what he does. So they open the path, slowly, quietly, until Semion becomes the ultimate boss. Whatever he says, everyone obeys. With immense power and immense money, he moves into higher-level crimes. For example, arms trafficking, not just within the Soviet Union, to the entire world. The group becomes so powerful, they can ship weapons from the USSR to anywhere on Earth. This influence only becomes possible after the 1980s, as Moscow weakens and control loosens. The Soltsevskaya Bratva spreads across Eastern Europe. Any illegal activity in the region, they're involved. Prostitution, illegal casinos, money laundering, drugs, arms trafficking, kidnapping, and believe it or not, they even sell enriched uranium to different governments. By 1990, Semion and his group are incredibly rich. He decides to go international and move the center out of the Soviet Union. That same year, before the USSR collapses, he takes all the money and moves to Israel. As a Jew, he easily gains residency, especially with that much capital. He now holds a Soviet passport, an Israeli passport. He marries a Hungarian woman and gains a Hungarian passport too. In just 1 year, he becomes a citizen of 3 countries. Why does that matter? Because he wants a global mafia, and passports make everything easier. When he moves to Hungary, he falls in love with the country. He buys a luxury home in Budapest and invests heavily. Real estate, shops, restaurants, and most importantly, an old weapons factory, which he revives. Slowly, he ensures his income isn't only criminal. Factories, stores, restaurants, properties. And he doesn't invest in just one country. The Soviet Union, Israel, Hungary, But he wants more. He quickly enters Western Europe, Frankfurt, Paris, London. From there, he reaches the United States. In America, without ever setting foot there, he buys massive amounts of property. But the mafia's headquarters remain in Budapest. That's where he lives. The first time the world hears his name is in 1995. British news agencies call him the most dangerous man in the world because of his crimes in Europe. What they don't know is that he's operating globally, even reaching Australia and New Zealand. In 1997, he executes one of his biggest crimes. In Philadelphia, he registers a fake company called YBM Magnix Inc., supposedly a Canadian company producing advanced magnets. It's completely fake. A large office, a convincing setup, but nothing real. As always, his strength is accounting. He fabricates massive profits, $10 million in earnings, all fake. He prepares false documents and lists the company on Wall Street. If you've seen The Wolf of Wall Street, you know exactly how this works. Worthless companies, made to look valuable, stock prices inflated. Mogilevich does the same. He drives the fake company's value up to $1 billion. Then, within 24 hours, the stock collapses to zero. Semion disappears with all the money. A massive scam. So why isn't he arrested? Because his network is so complex, so carefully designed. No one can prove who's responsible. Everyone knows it's Semion, but there's no evidence. And words alone don't put someone in prison. Another major investment after the USSR collapse. Russian natural gas pipelines to Europe. This becomes one of their biggest revenue sources. Even the Turkmenistan-Ukraine pipeline has his money in it. In short, Semion becomes one of the richest criminals on earth, untouchable, until, surprisingly, in 2008, he enters Moscow airport and is arrested for tax evasion. He spends months in detention. Then suddenly, some unknown channel opens. Contact is made with the Russian government, and he's released. Mistake, they say. After that, the FBI issues an arrest warrant with a $5 million reward. But 6 years later, in 2015, the FBI quietly removes him from the list. No longer wanted. What happened? No one knows. It seems Semion has connections everywhere. Today, he is a billionaire. Exactly how many billions? Unknown. But we know this. He lives freely in Moscow. He holds residency in Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hungary, and Greece. Semion Mogilevich, one of the most powerful criminals in history. Yet almost no one knows his name. Unlike Al Capone, Luciano, or Gambino, despite being far bigger than all of them. Today, he is 79 years old, living in a luxury area of Moscow with endless money. And his criminal network has never shut down. Tens of thousands still work for him. But Semion Mogilevich studied economics at Lviv University and used it perfectly for a lifetime in crime. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.